Hey guys, Tech Rally here, and today I'm super excited to share this story with you. This guest is actually someone I've done one on ones with, and I'm just so glad that we're able to chat. But more importantly, this episode is just more dedicated to highlight his story because it is a success story of becoming a developer. But I know we always glamorize, like, oh, becoming a software developer, but just my experience and talking to this individual, I just know how much hard work he has done before and how much hard work he has done now. So without further ado, Kevin, hi, how are you?
Hey, Tech Riley. Well, thanks for having me here. Love to share
Of
some
course.
stories. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you want to give us a little introduction, like where you're from? What did you do before coding and whatnot?
yeah, sure. I am a web developer.
Nice.
Well, specifically like working for front end.
Hmm.
And Yeah, I mean, I've been developing for about 4.5 years now. And I grew up in Taiwan. I was born here. I grew up in Taiwan. Um, so like elementary school, middle school, but my family decided that hey, it's time to go go to the States and study. So I came to the States, studied for high school, went to college in Phoenix, and after that, um, started working a little bit, and long story short, hated my job and started learning coding, and here I am.
Yeah. And what did you study in Arizona?
Yeah, so I studied a lot actually, so changed my major a lot.
Didn't know what you wanted
Uh,
to do.
oh yeah, I have no idea what I want to do.
Yeah.
uh, so I ended up graduating with a marketing degree.
Hmm.
Um, and after that, my first job was a sales, uh, being a sales developer, development representative at a small tech company.
Hmm.
Um, and That's where I realized that I really don't want to do this. Um,
Right.
yeah, and it really got me to like thinking about what I really wanted to do.
Hmm.
And here it is.
Right. Right. And so you didn't really take any like boot camp, or you didn't go to grad school for coding. How did you get into it? How did you
So
start?
I did went to a boot camp. Um,
Oh, that's right.
so
Yeah.
so after like back to the story where I was still an SDR at this tech company.
Hmm.
Um, I was thinking like really hard like what I really want to do, and at that time I think that's around like 5 years ago. A lot of people, even friends around me, like I have friends that are actual engineers that actually like went to college to get a CS degree, went to grad
Hmm.
school for that, got a job. And some of my friends were actually transitioning from like different career to a software developer and actually succeed. So that kind of like gave me an idea like, hey, I kind of want to do that, and
Hmm.
um, why not give it a try? And of course, it's like money, right?
Right. Yeah. It's pretty
All my friends
expensive.
like making a lot more money than me. So
Oh, you're
yeah.
talking about the pay. I thought you meant the pay of the cost of a boot camp.
Oh yeah, definitely yeah. The pay for like a software engineer, it's just like
Right. Right.
how are they getting paid so much?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so like different reasons. So like of course like I was always interested. I was always like it's like computer guy, or play a
Hmm.
lot of games. Spend a lot of time on a computer. So I thought I was like, hey, why not? This is something I like to do. Um, why not just actually learn how to
Right.
communicate with a computer? I guess.
Uh huh.
Um, so I had some money saved up at that time, and then I kind of made a decision that I'm just gonna quit. And I looked up some boot camp and decided on I ended up going to General Assembly, um, and basically it was pretty expensive. So the boot camp was pretty expensive. So I paid everything in front, and that kind of like one of my that's kind of one of my motivation. Like I'm spending this much money that I
Hmm.
better study hard, right? So
Right, right,
yeah, it's like a normal. I think it's like a 3 month full time every day boot camp,
right.
and um, completed the whole thing, the course, and after that, yeah, just went straight into job searching mode. But that was
Right.
a really bad experience.
Yeah, and we could definitely elaborate on that part. But what did you think of the bootcamp experience? Did you feel like you're equipped, or what were some positive, what were some negatives, and whatnot?
Yeah, so I think back then, not sure about now, but back then the like in order to get into actually to a cohort in the boot camp, you had to pass this interview and with some where they ask you like how much do you know about coding,
Hmm.
kind of understand like what do you know, and then they give you some material to like go back and like study for like a week, and then they'll give you like a little exam to see if
Hmm.
you, I guess like see if you really want to learn code, I guess. So
Right.
it's basic stuff like HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript. So um, it was a fun exercise, and I think that was really interesting. Um, and once I got in, that's when where all the hard work started to hit the fan.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so I think boot camps are great overall, where
Hmm.
like, because I think coding is like you got to do it's something that you got to do every day without
Interruption or something.
without
Or
interruption for sure. Yeah,
mm.
and uh, coding bootcamp is like one a good place for you to do that, where you like go every day and you spend the whole
Hmm.
day there. Uh,
Hmm.
Sometimes you definitely get burnt out, but it's a great way to like kickstart
Hmm.
your career. But definitely, 3 months is not enough. You
Right.
got to do a lot of self learning after that too. But it's a
Right.
great start.
And when did you go again? What year was that?
Uh 16, 2016.
2016. Okay, so it was
Yeah,
pretty still relatively early. I think it was. I think you went around the same time I did. I think went in 2015. So around that same time. I've talked to some Flatiron students for one of my other interviews, and they were saying that we were in like the golden era, apparently the 2015-16 time.
yeah.
But who knows, right? Would you say we were one of the stronger students, or medium, or weaker, or I don't, like, where would you place yourself in that category?
Right. So there's only 8
Oh, there
people
was only
in
eight
my
students.
class. Yeah.
Okay,
So
well then that never mind on that question. That might be a little bit tougher, but I was gonna ask like how difficult was it and whatnot. Like, did it feel like you were learning a lot, or after you graduated? I was gonna follow up with those kind of questions, but uh,
no,
maybe
yeah.
in general, like, did you feel like you learned a lot at that 3 months?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. That's
Mm-hmm.
learned. It's probably like the most productive couple months that I've ever had.
Right.
It's something that it was 3 months was really quick actually. It goes by really quick,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
uh, I mean, even though like we only have 8 people in my cohort,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it was lucky, and then there were two instructors, so we get more
The
attention.
ratio is great. Yeah, maybe that's why they call it the golden era, like
Yeah,
to
for
have that
sure.
many students and that many teachers.
Yeah, I know someone like they went like 2 years after, and they're like 40 people class
Right,
room or something.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like you're job ready, even though you learned a lot?
So I at well me back then, like I thought I was job ready for sure
Right,
afterwards.
right,
But you get a lot of rude awakening after you start applying for jobs.
right.
Um,
How was it?
oh man, it was like you apply. Like in the back of my head, I'm just like, I think I know a lot because I did learn a lot from boot camp, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning, I did learn a lot, but in the back of my head, like I keep doubting myself. It's like do I can I really get a job with
Mm,
3 months of practice from zero to
right.
like 100%? So that was like before, like back in my mind, but you just keep looking for opportunities after
Right.
that. But the it's actually when you started to interview, when I started to interview with companies, that's when you kind of get like a rude awakening of how much you don't know.
Mhm.
Uh, so back then, like right out of a boot camp, like even getting people to talk to you was really
Really.
hard.
Yeah.
Um, and for people to like take you in, it's something that's even harder. Um, but
Right.
it takes time, and interview process, like it teaches you like what you don't know, and you will understand like what you need to focus and like be better at.
Right. And I think for your school, did they have a career service team that gave you introductions to schools? Because people want to say that 2015, 2016 was a golden era, but if you don't have the support of the school kind of giving you those intro calls, then it's actually even scarier to apply to jobs, in my opinion, because people didn't even know what coding boot camps were back then. So when you're probably reaching out, I assume people are like, who is this guy? He doesn't have a computer science degree and whatnot. So how tough was it actually to even get callbacks? Did the school help you? What was that experience like?
Yeah, so we do have a career support team. So
Hmm.
every like when you're done with your with your boot camp, they will help you out with putting together your information, like building your resume, and helping you like setting up uh, events where you can like showcase your projects that you've done in boot
Hmm.
camp and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, but well, my experience is that in my boot camp, like at the end of your class, you get this one you put together your project and you present to the to employers um, that will meet you at this event that they throw
Hmm.
at the boot camp.
Hmm.
And so for me about back then, I was just like, okay, this is my only chance, right? So I gotta be,
Right. Yeah.
that'd be great. So prepare a lot for that, but you know, um, a lot of employers just like look at your project and then they're just like, okay, I feel like they're just like, okay, you're just another uh, boot camp
Wow.
grad.
Yeah.
So that like no one, like you leave like contact information to them, but they're just
Mhm.
like nobody will want to contact you. So it was pretty hard after that. Even getting to talk to people is really hard. People look at you just like, oh, another bootcamp grad, unless you like
Yeah.
really showcase that you can actually do something. Um,
Mhm.
but um, but the funny thing is that at the end, I was um, I had this relationship with the close relationship with one of the career uh, member, career team member
Mhm.
in the boot camp.
Mm.
I just bother her a lot all the time, every day. So I just told her like, hey, if you ever find any opportunity, just let me know, or like
Yeah.
I will go for it. So
Yeah.
my first developer job. So actually, there's this tech company that called the boot camp and it's like, hey, do you guys have any graduates that you will recommend so we can interview?
Right.
So
Right.
she passed on my information and I was like,
Mhm.
yes, I'm gonna go. Yes, I'm gonna do
Right.
this, and then I ended up getting my job, and that will be that will ended up to be my first developer job.
Yeah. And before we even talk about that, I know how many jobs you were applying to and whatnot. But at that time when you graduated and were like applying, like how badly were you on that grind? Like, were how many hours, how many applications were you sending out?
If I remember it right, well, definitely more than 100 back then. But I
Right.
think my goal at that time was like every day I'm gonna at least I'm gonna
Mhm.
go on any job board or site anything to look for openings, entry
Mhm.
level openings, and
Mhm.
my goal was to have five apply to five companies every day.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so that's what I did, and it was hard because you graduated from your boot camp, but you don't have a job because you quit your
Right.
job, and the bad part is like you don't have an income, but the good part is that you have a lot of time to prepare for what you want to
Right.
do.
Right.
So I just keep applying. Also, in the middle, just keep learning. Go online, take classes. Um,
Yeah. I think
um,
that's so underrated though, because what you say, 100 applications is not easy. And I know so many people, even on Twitter or just self-taught developers, they complain about the fact that, oh, I'm not getting any application responses, I'm not getting any blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, how many jobs did you apply? It's like I applied to two this week. And I'm like, you're not gonna hit 100% of all the jobs you apply for, right? So it's just
yep.
crazy to me to hear that. And in some ways, I feel like they're not treating their job search like a job. But in your case, you were just on the grind. You were applying. You were even talking to your career service person and saying, "Hey, look, like if any opportunity shows up, let me know. Let me know." Right.
Yeah,
So
and definitely a lot of YouTube videos.
and a lot of YouTube videos. Yeah.
Like your channel or something, just like try to motivate yourself, looking at other
Hmm.
people's
Hmm.
story.
Yeah. No, but I think that's such a underrated like skill or characteristic, like having the dedication to not only code but to actually put more effort into your job search. You probably know best too. It's like no one's gonna spoon feed this to you, right? So like just kind of like swallowing your pride a little bit, or like maybe your first job is not going to be your ideal job or whatnot, but as long as it's like a developer job, it could get your foot in the door. And that's kind of maybe what I'm alluding to, because we've done one-on-ones, I know your background. Like, was your first job this like awesome like Ruby on the Rails job, like you'll be a full stack developer, you're gonna
Right.
do back end stuff, front end frameworks? I guess at that time it was like Backbone and Angular, but was it that kind of job? What was it?
Yeah, it's funny how you mentioned like it's something that no one's gonna like feed you, or like just come out and start helping you in that. I mean,
Right.
even if you have someone like that, coding something like
Hmm.
I feel like you need to learn yourself. Like even someone
Hmm.
want to teach you something, you just gotta actually do it. Put
It's one
hands
of
on it.
those jobs that I hate and love the most about the interview process. It's because you go in there and you can't just say like I'm a hard worker, like hire me. Like they actually like test your skills to see if
Right.
you know how to code, right? So it's just I wish there was a little bit of a better template of what they will ask you, but it's still you have to be like ready for anything, right? So it's
Yeah.
tough. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like my first job, it was bad. Thinking back, it was so bad. Like the stuff that I'm doing. I mean, thinking back right now, it was just like, oh my god, like the stuff I'm doing is so like
Much
it's
more fun.
boring. Yeah, but to be honest, even though like the stuff that I was doing back then, it was like really simple, small stuff.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't
Mhm.
really matter too much for the company.
Mhm.
But it actually gave me a really good foundation
Mhm.
of how to a foundation of web development. Um,
And what was the
so
title again of your
yeah,
job?
so the title was just it was funny. Like it asks you like, hey, what do you want for your title? So I'm just like, oh, I mean, developer. so
Yeah.
so we ended up going with just a web developer.
Web
Um,
developer, right? And
yeah,
what did you
so
do at that company when you? What were your main responsibilities?
right, so the first, I would say like half of year, all I did was pure HTML and Java, CSS. No, not even JavaScript, just HTML, CSS every day, all day, every day. Uh, it that was like anything from like building email templates
Mhm.
or simple websites, or even though sometimes you gotta work with like um, um, oh man, yeah, I work with like WordPress stuff, right? Just like here,
Mhm.
I want you to
Mhm.
fix here or fix that.
Mhm.
But but it's all HTML CSS. So that was to believe it or not, like at first it was still pretty hard, even though like you
Right.
learn like JavaScript or React framework like in Bootcamp, but it's just like you don't really know how it works. But now you're like, oh, this is HTML, this is CSS. Like in the process, it's like, okay, I'm understanding everything started to connect like in the
Right,
beginning.
right. Especially because boot camps, they don't really emphasize the HTML and CSS parts too much. So it
Yeah, it
must
was
have
like
been like,
first
oh my
week, and
gosh, you could
then
go this deep into HTML and CSS.
yeah, like one of the I was thinking like one of the hardest projects I've ever done was like we got to build this um, shopping page where there's a product where you're just using HTML and CSS um, to do like a 360 effect, like a 360 like rotation effect of a product,
Wow.
um, and that was just like how are you gonna do this, right? And then you like go research and looking up
Mm-hmm.
online. Like nobody's there to help you, right? So you just gotta
Right.
like go online, Google it, and then ended up, yeah, it wasn't too. I mean, it was hard, but once you finish it, and you're like, okay, like that's how you actually like use CSS and
Right.
JavaScript, like how you actually can do that. So it was really interesting. Like you're moving like pictures frame by frame, and you can calculate angles. So that was very interesting. But yeah, I don't think you will ever want to use that anymore. But it was
Yeah.
interesting.
No, I know you know you have some not complaint, but you're like, oh man, why am I just doing HTML and CSS? But when I hear that story, I'm like, wow, you had an opportunity to just do HTML and CSS for 6 months. You must be so good at it now because not enough developers spend time getting good at HTML and mostly, more importantly, the CSS part. I think a lot of people, even in this like even with people with 5 to 10 years of experience of just coding, they always cringe when they get to the CSS part because they don't know how to do it and like build scalable CSS properly. So the fact that you were able to do that for 6 months and you had the opportunity to do it for 6 months, I know for a fact when we were talking and we were talking about some other stuff, I was like, your next job is going to be so much easier to get because you have a very strong fundamentals of front end development. And I think some people they think like, oh, I don't like styling, so can I just do the data stuff in JavaScript and then give it to someone else? Like, no, you're a front end developer. You need to be able to do everything, right?
Yeah,
So these days, more people know more about how to use JavaScript, but they really aren't that good at CSS. So I like I never actually seen you code, but based on like your experience and what you've described, I think that could have been the best like situation to be in from a different perspective if you think about it. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, I definitely feel like that. I didn't even realize it, but you get good, and then later on, it's just like it comes.
Yeah, it
It's like
must
a
come
step
second
by
nature
step
to
thing.
you. Yeah, you're like, oh, I
Yeah,
just need to add some margin here, or I need to float this, or I need to like flex it or grid it. Like I'm pretty sure people at your new company are like, wow, this guy knows his stuff. Like, so it's like you
I
could
hope
do
so.
things quickly. Yeah, yeah. But man, how did like I know at that moment it must have not felt like, oh wow, this isn't what I signed up for. But how were you feeling when I would assume you were happy when you got the job, but then when you're doing that for 6 months, did you kind of look back and was like, wait, did I like go to a coding boot camp to just do this all the time? Like, how are you feeling in that moment?
So no, I was definitely like really happy when I first got
Okay,
the
that's
offer.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, even though like the pay was like almost half of what I was doing and being like a sales at my
Hmm.
old job, but this is I like my mindset was just like, um, at least someone is paying me to learn, and
Hmm.
then it's that opportunity that I can learn something that actually like to touch on like the actual project
Hmm.
that excites me, not the money,
Right. Hmm.
but yeah, for sure that I was really stoked when I first got the
I
job.
just want my audience to hear what you said. You took a job that was paying less than what you were previously making by potentially even half, and
Yeah.
you still took the job offer because number one, it was your first job offer, and number two, you knew that someone was gonna pay you to actually learn and build things, right? And this was just kind of like experience for you.
Yeah, especially you spend like so much money in boot camp and you're just like, wow, I'm learning, but someone's actually paying me,
Pay
even if
me
it's like
now,
yeah.
right, right. And
Yeah.
so I think that's really important because sometimes people think that, oh, I mean, obviously you want to find a role that will pay you the same or similar amount to what you're previously making in the past industry. But the reality is that sometimes it might not be that way because you're changing industries, right? And just because you're getting paid less now doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get paid less later. So I'm glad that and I'm sure it was just such a struggle to find that first job, that once you did get that offer, it was kind of like, yes, finally I get to code and get paid. And as long as it's survivable, I would say that, like, definitely take that offer. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, I think very positively
Hmm.
most of the time. So
Yeah.
I know the money's gonna come.
Hmm.
You just gotta build your, experience
Experience and skills. Yeah.
and your skills. So I guess it happens. So
Yeah, dude. And so after 6 months of HTML and CSS, like, what was next? What were you doing at the company? And like, when did you start thinking about transitioning to a new role? And what was your mindset like at that point?
right. So after 6 months, that's when I started to, that's when I got really comfortable. I feel like I don't like in the beginning of the job, like the first 6 months, even though you're doing simple stuff, but
Hmm.
sometimes you just don't know a lot. You don't know anything, so you definitely gotta work overtime,
Hmm.
and you just gotta learn. But after about 6 months, that's when I feel like, okay, I'm getting really comfortable at this. I can just do
Hmm.
everything really quick. My productivity just went up.
Through,
So
yeah, through the roof. You've been doing
yeah,
HTML, CSS for 6 months.
yeah, it's like second
Yeah.
nature. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
um, so that's where I, started to think like, what's my next step?
Hmm.
And based on my experience at Bootcamp and consulting with some of my engineer friends, so they're like, hey, you got to learn JavaScript, right? So
Mm.
I decided to really get into JavaScript to understand how it works. Back in Bootcamp, you build projects with it, but to be honest, like I don't really know why. Like a lot of stuff. Like I went back to look at my code and I'm just like, I don't know half of it. So like, how did I do this? So so my goal is just like, okay, I'm gonna take some class online, and then
Hmm.
start after work every day afterwards. Just like go online, take some fundamental like JavaScript courses,
Hmm.
and start refactoring my project back in Bootcamp and see if I can make it work again. And you add some more features to it,
Hmm.
and once that that gets more comfortable, start going to build a new project, and just keep building. I guess building.
Hmm.
I think building project is really where I learned how to actually
Use
write
JavaScript.
JavaScript, right?
Hmm.
Combined with my HTML, CSS skills,
Right.
and everything like makes more sense by then.
Hmm.
And yeah, so did did that for about 3 months, a lot of self learning, and then I talked one day. I just like talked to my manager and it's like, hey, can I do something in JavaScript, for the company? I've been learning. This is what I've done. Can I do something more? Right.
Hmm.
So 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 I mean, I guess they were pretty happy because they get more help. So they
Yeah.
were starting to give me like this little ticket, from like simple stuff they fix. So started doing that, and yeah, and then I started to work with JavaScript, and then that's how I like got into my next step.
Hmm.
Um, and after that, that I think that went on for like, because JavaScript is like a lot of things. to
A lot
learn
of things
and
to learn from, yeah. So we're
right.
using just we're using jQuery or just using vanilla JavaScript at your
Vanilla
company?
JavaScript,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's good. Yeah.
There was some jQuery from like some legacy code,
Hmm.
um, but I think by that at that time, the team's like actually just using vanilla JavaScript. It wasn't that
Right.
complex. So,
Right.
um, so yeah, that was I thinking back, I was like, oh, I was very lucky to actually work with vanilla JavaScript, just like
Yeah.
everything vanilla JavaScript. Um,
Yeah. Dude, you got that's why I'm saying that in some ways it was such a good opportunity to be able to learn all the fundamentals because sometimes people try to just skip to React or skip to a framework without learning anything, and then it's just it's
and,
mind-boggling. It's like trying to learn how to shoot a basket. I don't know. I don't know a good analogy right now off the top of my head, but it's just like trying to do stuff without like knowing the fundamentals. But you spend so much time, maybe too much time, some people can say, but you spent a good amount of time learning the fundamentals, which is super awesome, I think.
believe me, like I try to get the shortcut too. So sometimes you look at JavaScript, it's like, hey, there's a Java React. I can do that. I know how that works.
Yeah.
So start doing it. But every time like you start doing it, you actually spend more time trying to figure out things that, for example, like I want to learn React. I know that's my next step. So
Hmm.
I start learning it and try to build something with it. But every time I come back and then feel like I need to understand JavaScript more in order
Yeah.
for me to actually do
And learn
that. So
React. Yeah.
kind of like you want to get the shortcut, but you actually get bumped back. So
Got it. Got
yeah,
it. So how long were you doing that JavaScript, HTML, CSS blend for?
that was about for a year.
Yeah.
I wanted to do more after about half a year just working JavaScript.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but it was like situation didn't allow it in the company, so ended up just keep doing that. But in the meantime, like I still just keep learning, and then
Right.
um,
How are you keeping up to like current technologies and whatever? Were you like, were you subscribed to newsletters or is just through Reddit or whatever? How did you stay up to date with technologies?
I was like a lot of them from like um, Medium articles,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
any following like Kent C. Dodds on all the blog posts that he wrote,
Yeah.
and YouTubers. There's so many YouTubers out there,
Yeah.
and just basically just like. But and the other hand, like once you're building something and you're actually working with it every day, it's
Right.
hard for you to not see what's coming, what's new, and
Right.
so I think that working at this company and also building your own project and also taking classes that just um, you know help me like keep up with it's always changing, especially like for front end stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that really helped me like keep up with it. But I I guess like don't get I would say like don't get sidetracked. There's so many things to
Right.
learn.
Right. Right.
You want like you see this and then you see this new framework and then you see this library and then you say, oh, maybe I should learn how to use this and use that. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say like stick to the core and then
Right.
learn that when you have to use it somewhere in your project.
Right. That makes total sense. And as much as I like to just say how great of an opportunity it was, the reality is that sometimes it could get boring, right? Just doing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and you see these other cool frameworks that are coming out and whatnot, and just kind of pointing you to like what made you want to start looking for another roles. Like, what roles did you want to look for? Did you feel like you were ready to look for those roles? Because technically if you're looking for a role that requires React, like you would need some React experience a little bit. So how did you kind of approach that, oh, my next job role, like in terms of just like preparation and whatnot?
Right. So I think so after working with like JavaScript for about a year, I know my next step is that I need to learn React. Well, at least
Hmm.
a framework,
Yeah.
a front end framework. So I think React is what I've done before in the bootcamp, and a lot of my friends are actually React developers, so that's something that I want to do. And so again, I guess like I just start building things,
Mhm. Mhm.
looking for like project ideas and just start building. And um, my goal back then was to build something with React,
Mhm.
throw up a React app and try to hook up as much features that I can.
Mhm.
Um, and I wanted to showcase to my manager back then that hey, um, I can do this. Can you give me some ticket in React and
Yeah.
let me work with it, or even some bugs that I can figure out.
Uh-huh.
Um, so that was hard. I tried a couple times, and uh, I a lot of times they're just like, okay, you need to know more, learn more. So they try to give me something,
Interesting.
but
Mhm.
when I looked at it, I'm just like, oh, I don't know what this is about. Like I know how to build a React app, but I
Uh-huh.
thought I knew.
Uh-huh.
But looking at like the code base that's for my company, and a lot of things just like, oh, wait, like what is this? Like what is linting? Like what is like why
Uh,
is this so different than what I'm just doing?
uh-huh.
Like easily like create a React app or anything. And so
Yeah, yeah.
um so that kind of just it was that kind of like made me ask like okay, I need to learn this again. And then
Mhm.
just like all the other stuff, I guess you once you start to see something that you don't know,
Mhm.
you just try to figure out, and then you keep learning until a point that it kind of makes sense. Everything's starting to make sense.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I kept building by myself. Asking my friends to see, hey, if this is like something that you would actually do at a being like as a developer, front end developer, like in your company.
Mhm.
Um, and I was lucky to get some guidance. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, done that, and I was also able to get some small bugs that I can figure it out for my company.
So
And
they were using React a little bit?
they were, yeah. So
Yeah.
the new projects they were using, I mean, like the new projects from my old company was, they were starting to use React.
Got
Um,
it. Got it.
so I was able to build some small components for them, and then starting to get to understand how it works. So
Yeah.
that's like a beginning, and then um done that for about another year.
Yeah.
I
Just small React
um
stuff here and there. Yeah, got it.
yeah, and I feel like I understand good enough to actually
Yeah.
look for a React developer job. So it's
So
back then I'm like
before
yeah.
but the thing is, like, why did you look for another job? Was it just pure, like, the money aspect at that point? Like, this your first developer job, you got paid relatively low. So, at this point, did you feel like I have learned enough React, I'm pretty good at JavaScript kinda thing, and it's like, maybe I should be more curious about what's out there in the market?
Yeah, so definitely, because I've always dreamed of that, making six figures
Right,
from
right,
being a self developer. That was like my main goal to get to
right.
this.
Mhm.
So of course the money, and then
Yeah.
also
I
I
mean,
feel
deservedly so, right, deservedly so. So,
yeah,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
and also like I felt like back in my company, I am too. I'm stuck at this place where I'm not learning anything anymore.
Mm.
Um, that is like a big. I would say like the main reason I want to leave. I mean,
Mhm,
they definitely like gave me some raise whenever I took on more responsibility.
mhm,
Um, but that's fine. But once you get, I feel like for me, like if I feel like I'm not learning anything new, or I'm just doing the same thing over and over again, I want to look for something, and I don't want to get stuck there.
right.
Um, so that was when I decided to like, hey, I been working in React for about almost a year now, and then I feel like, hey, why not? Maybe I should give it a try. Just go out there
Mhm,
and look for actually apply for React developer job. You
yeah,
know, uh,
no.
so yeah, I started looking.
Yeah, that's cool. And like I think this is where like we kind of connected a little bit. You reached out to me and like scheduled a one-on-one, and I think this is kind of where I was listening to your story, and like not to toot my own horn, but like what did we talk about during that time? Because I know you had a lot of questions about, do I need a portfolio? I've been a web developer for a few years, but I haven't been really using React too much. What do you remember the advice I gave you?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. So it was funny because when I reached out to you,
Mhm,
um, I actually, I already have my resume, all written now. I
mhm,
prepared. I've already started applying and then,
mhm.
talking to some company. But back then, like my main reason, like there was this week that I was just so depressed, that because I talked to so many companies and then I just failed at, like after the phone screen, I'm like, yes, I can pass the phone screen, right? So going
Yeah,
to the next like an hour coding, session,
sure.
I
Uh-huh.
felt so bad. I felt every single one of them. I think I had like 10 already. I already talked to 10, and then every single one of them, I don't know why am I not. Now I know, but like back then I was
Mhm,
like, I maybe I'm not ready for this, right? I was just
mhm,
really depressed, and then
mhm.
looking online for like YouTube video people talking about the stories, and then like you kind of popped up, and I was like, oh,
Yes,
YouTube
YouTube
like kind of,
algorithm is saving me.
yeah. I was like, oh, this guy, like, wow, okay, I maybe. And then I was like going to your website. I was like scrolling down to the link and then going to your website. I was like, oh, you actually like take. I can schedule a call with you. So I'm like, I'm gonna do this. Like, let's do it.
Wow. It just takes someone being really depressed and getting rejected many times to schedule a call with me.
I mean, I was like, okay, I guess this guy can help me. I was like so desperate
What
to
were
like
you
look for
expecting,
help.
actually? I'm genuinely curious. What compels someone to be like, I think this person could help me, possibly? And like, did you have high expectations, low expectations? What
I
was your
Yeah, no, no. Like before I schedule a time with you. I've been watching your video for about a
okay?
week or so,
Uh huh. Uh huh.
and just one. I like after one of the videos, like I'm just like, I wish I can. Like I was thinking, like I wish I can like get more information from you. Like
Mm,
just like
mm,
get some suggestion. And
yeah.
then I saw your link down there and then I'm just like, okay, I can talk to you. So I was expecting like because you kind of I feel like this that you've been through like the path that
Hmm.
I
Right.
like the situation right now where I'm in. So
Hmm.
I felt like you might give me some good advice. Um,
Right.
so yeah, that's what I did. I'm like I remember like I prepared all my materials. Like I was ready to like code for you, and it's like I thought you're gonna ask me like, hey, show me this. So I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm
Oh,
ready.
yeah.
um,
We actually didn't even code, but we did talk
yeah,
for a whole hour.
yeah. I remember like my first question was just like, hey, I wanted to, I'm doing this right now. I'm looking for a job. This is what I've been doing. Here's my resume, and this is what I've done. Uh, what like what do you think? Like, do I am
Mhm.
I?
Mhm.
I think like I think one of my main question was like, do you think I am ready
Mhm.
for my next step?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and then you were just like you're like, yeah, let me see your resume, and then you're looking at it, and it's like, hmm. um, you made some edits to my resume, and then I think you told me like I think you're ready. You just
Mhm.
gotta keep applying, and then learn. You asked me about my interview process so far, and
Mhm.
then I guess somehow you think I can do it, and then you're confident that I can do it. So you gave me like step by step, instruction like how you should proceed from now, and
Mhm.
to be honest, that really helped, and that like I follow your like stuff too. Like I made some adjustments in my resume, and I follow your steps on to keep interviewing and learn from
Hmm.
the interview, and then just keep doing that, and then that also like gave me this confidence boost that
Yeah.
there's a YouTuber that thinks I'm okay. So
Yeah. Yeah, man. I wish I had more. I wish I gave more tangible advice besides confidence. But I think though, I remember one thing specifically that I told you about was like you were asking me, do I need to, um, like shift? Do I need to focus on building a portfolio project in React and like that will help me stand out more during the interview process? And I said, no, don't do that because you already have the job experience. If anything, what
right,
you're probably lacking is interview experience. So even though you are getting rejected, you need to get more experience and understand what kind of questions people are asking. Don't spend your time so much on building projects. If anything, you need to spend more time like practicing interviews and like solving like problems quickly, solving problems under an hour, like trying to build like a carousel or try to build like some kind of fetch API and then return it, render it, and then display it in a certain way. All of these like little things that aren't necessarily like projects you would share. You had to be able to like showcase your skills very quickly and confidently. And I think based on our conversation, that's kind of what I thought you were a little bit lacking. But that just took a lot of repetition. So I just didn't want you to focus all of your like work and effort into building a project that people might not even look at, especially because you had that work experience. Yeah.
yeah, I exactly. I think that's I kind of remind it's been a while, and then I remember that. Yeah, exactly. I think yeah. Another question. Yeah, that was like because I was like really depressed and I got so defeated. I was like
Hmm.
maybe I should build out more and then learn more about what I don't know. But you were like, hey, you have your experience already, like
Hmm.
3 years and plus with your old company. And you were like, yeah, like you said, like you were asking me like what kind of difficulties were like, what was the like how was my interview process so far, and
Hmm.
then that one was the building things out quickly, and so that was one of my weakness, like that I definitely improved that after talking to you, and then
Yeah.
it really helps because like sometimes like interview you only have like 45 minutes to do an exercise, and then
Hmm.
they give you this questions that, to be honest, like you can very easily like over engineer, like you can like start thinking about really detailed stuff, but you kind
Yeah.
of
Like,
got to get into this interview mode.
you have to be
That
vocal. You have to explain your thoughts, or like maybe talk about what you plan on doing. All of these things are really important.
right,
Yeah.
and most of the time maybe I'm just too slow, but most of the time I feel like I don't really can really finish the whole thing, but
Hmm.
sometimes the interviewer is like, hey, I know what you're doing here. You can just skip
Hmm.
that part. Just focus on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
see what you're doing.
Hmm.
So yeah, definitely like you said, like communicate, like speak up. Don't just put your head down, start coding, but like let them know what
Right.
you're thinking.
Yeah.
And once they know, once they know that this
Know what
stuff,
you're doing.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, okay, don't worry about this and work on something else.
Yeah.
They want to find out more, right? So yeah, that after that, it definitely like the interview process went smoother, and there's definitely a lot more after talking
Hmm.
to you, but and
Yeah. It's the secret
I'm
sauce.
so
I can't. We
glad.
can't share it to the public. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, you gotta pay the
But
$50
yeah.
to talk to me.
Exactly right. But no, I mean, yeah, if I could ask one question for you, and like, this is not about me or anything. It's like, how much easier was it to get interviews for your second job than your first job?
So much easier. Yeah, cause like when you don't have the experience, like I
Hmm.
don't think anybody wants to talk to you. I mean, if they
Right.
even if they want to, like I'm putting it that way, but
I know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, I that's how I feel like, cause I feel like no one wants to
Right.
talk to me.
Right.
Um, so definitely like when I started applying a couple months ago, when I had that experience, you know, I would say like all out of like 85 companies that I've applied, um, almost I think at least half of the company you get a response, and then at least you get a phone screen, and then you go to the first round or two. So that's a big difference from before. Like I my first job before that, I was like I applied to 120, 200 companies, and only like 10 wants to actually talk to you. And
Right.
so it's a big difference for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's the proof is in the pudding, man. Like it's just really hard for a hiring manager or recruiter to trust someone for their first role, unfortunately. And that's why I say, man, if you got an offer and you reject it, you really don't know when that next offer is going to come again, and it's just so much harder. But like I know for you, for your second job, you got more than one offer, right? And it's just crazy to think about. You went from just having only one offer that was really low paid to having competing offers, right? So it's just crazy how the circumstances can change when you have, well, in your regards, it's not even luck. You put in a lot of work. You got your fundamentals down. You're working as a software developer for 3 years, so you might think that, oh, it was just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but that is also part of web development. Like it doesn't always have to be the most sexiest thing in the world, like just because you're not using a framework or whatever. But man, like you put in a lot of effort and you put in a lot of work and a lot of grind, and you didn't really like settle. And the fact that you were able to keep pushing and getting better, you had three competing offers, and then you chose one that fit right for you. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you know, in the middle, like it's hard for you to keep going. A lot of my old coworkers, they still doing just simple JavaScript and HTML, CSS. But some people like
Hmm.
if you don't, I truly believe that once you have the skill, I
Hmm.
think that's like one of the because in the very beginning I thought it's so like the software engineers interview are just so hard. Like you
Yeah.
actually got to code something for people to believe in you. But now I feel like that's actually a good thing because you don't have to talk like stuff. You can just show them what you have, and then
Yeah.
they can tell like what you know, what you don't. And so I truly believe like once you learn the skill, there it's not too hard. I mean, it wouldn't be too hard for people to see your value and offer you
Right.
a job for sure.
I think that's another thing. Is like you don't want to settle with what you already know, and it's very easy to do that, especially at a company where, let's just be honest about it. It's just like it's relatively safe, and you might not be making the most money, but you're not getting fired either, right? Because you know those specific set of skills. But I'm a true believer of that. If you want to make more money, you want to get paid more at a company, you have to just get better as a software engineer. And like, you don't have to like share your salary, but I'm sure it was such a significant pay bump from your first job to your second job, even with the first job raises, right? And it's just because you have the skills to back it up.
Yeah, it's funny how you say like getting fired because back in my first job, every time I'm spending extra time like leaving the company at like 9 or 10 or even
Hmm.
later, it was like I think I'm just like I'm scared of getting fired.
Yeah.
um I don't know how to do this and I gotta finish this before tomorrow. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna figure this out tonight. Like you just like, and then that kind of pushes you to learn more and just
Yeah. Yeah. I think it gets a little bit easier to close the laptop as you get more experience, just because you kind of know what you know, and then it's like I'll just figure this out tomorrow, because sometimes like mentally it just does wear on you. But I do agree, my first couple years in the industry, I was just grinding it out as hard as I can, because coming out of a boot camp, you learn as much as you can learn, but it's still not enough, right? So they're gonna pay you what they're gonna pay you because you can't say no otherwise. And then I was just working like you, late hours, 9, 10, come back to work, leave at 9, 10. Did that for about a couple years, and then after about year 3, 4 ish, that's when I started getting a little bit more comfortable, just saying like, okay, I'm gonna hang out with friends a little bit here, because the
having no
code will
friends for
always,
4 years.
Yeah,
Uh,
having no friends for the first 3 4 years, you're just like, okay, I should just actually hang out with them. But no, that's a really good point. Yeah, that
I
you
think
just don't settle.
I'm pretty sure you definitely like you definitely put in a lot of time, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of people miss this part, and they think like a lot of people like get transitioning to a developer job and do something
Hmm.
that's easy, but it's definitely something doable, but it's actually you definitely need to put a lot of time into it. Um,
Yeah. So if you had to give some advice to someone that's, I don't know. I mean, there's so many advice in so many different situations, but maybe someone that's starting off a little bit, self-taught developers and whatnot, like what kind of advice would you give them? It could be it could be pretty open-ended. Yeah.
yeah, well, don't give up. Like, just
Hmm.
keep grinding. That's like very
Yeah.
important. I've seen so many like people who started for working hard for about 3 months and then they stop for half a year and then start picking up
Yeah.
again.
Try to get back in again. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's 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 not impossible, but it's hard to keep doing that. A
Hmm.
lot of things could have changed in that time. So I would say like just keep grinding and
Hmm.
learn the fundamentals for
Yeah.
sure. Make sure you don't try to cut corners. Just learn the fundamentals. Follow it. There's so many there's so many guidance out there. I'm pretty sure you can find out like what step you can get a pretty good idea of what you need to do next, but make sure
Hmm.
you learn the step before that and before
Hmm.
you understand, make sure you understand it, and then you can keep moving to your next step, and eventually everything will click. Um,
Hmm.
that moment will come, and then just gotta keep learning, and um, yeah, I would say just keep learning and learn the fundamentals, and
Yeah. What
yeah.
do you think about people if they have their first job offer? Do you think they should take it if it's paid?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was prepared to take on an unpaid job, but I mean, of course, like I feel like if you ever, if anyone ever has that opportunity in front of you,
Hmm.
I I believe that you should definitely take it
Yeah.
because you never know when you're gonna have the next opportunity, and also
Hmm.
that the earlier you're gonna start building your resume, your experience, the
Yeah.
better.
No.
And once you have that experience, it will be much smoother.
Hmm.
That's that
Hmm.
first step that you
Yeah.
need to, yeah. So definitely take the take it.
Yeah. Are you get? I mean, without like giving the number, are you getting paid more than your first ever position or that first position before your software position? Like you're at the different industry.
For sure, yeah, for sure.
Yes,
If
let's go.
not, yeah, like almost tripled it, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was I was getting paid really bad back then, but
No, no.
um,
I sorry. I was talking about your first position before in the industry. Before the
oh, okay. And then for my first developer role,
no, no, no. Your first job before developer, and now your
yeah.
current job as a developer. Are you getting paid more
Oh,
than?
yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Still,
And it honestly, it only goes up. Like as someone that's kind of in similar shoes as you and kind of went through the gauntlet, it really does get like exponential. So that first job is so important because it just jumpstarts you. Like if you have to wait another 6 months to get that first job, it's gonna you just keep falling further and further behind. So it's good to get started quickly. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's another 6 months right there. I mean, if you can
Yeah.
have a sometimes I've seen people. One of my cohort, a student from my cohort in bootcamp, she, she she actually got her first job around the same time as me, and
Mm-hmm.
she found her second job after 6 months,
Uh
and
huh. And she's
and then I was just like, okay, how? But some people, it really depends. Sometimes it's luck too, and that
mm-hmm.
opportunity just opens up, and then you have that skill, but
Yeah.
you never know. So the earlier, I guess, you can build on your experience, the better, I
Right,
would say.
right. And I mean, it's not all about the money, but money is important. But in your case, I feel like the couple of years that you put into just really grinding out those fundamentals, it can only help you. Like maybe if you go from a company to another company in 6 months out of a boot camp, you might have to start all over. Maybe you have to learn a new language again, and you're not really grasping the fundamentals. So I think the fundamentals will never disappear, and you'll always have that in your tool belt. And anything that is newly added, like I don't know, like Tailwind CSS or like CSS modules or all that stuff, it's literally you can already look at it and be like, okay, it's just a different way they write CSS, right? It's not there's nothing special about it that makes it completely like revolutionary. Like you know the fundamentals so well that it's like, okay, like if I need to use
Exactly.
this, I could use it. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Even though like sometimes I didn't know that before, and I feel like,
Right.
oh, looking at the job requirements, you gotta know this, you gotta know that. I was like, how am I gonna learn all these? And
Yeah.
it's impossible. But
Right.
actually, it's like if you know the fundamentals, sometimes they don't even ask you that. If you know the
Hmm.
fundamentals, then they know you're gonna learn that. You
Yeah.
can pick up that quickly. So
Yeah. Super important for sure.
yeah, and
But
definitely talk to Tech Rally.
definitely talk to tech. I appreciate that because I don't know. At the same time, I am pretty busy, and there are a lot of people that are getting the one-on-ones now. So something must be working, right? But actually, I don't know if you know, but on my website, if you haven't been in a really long time, your face is there. And on my live streams, I've been hyping you up. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna interview this guy. He's
Oh,
a
what?
great developer. He's like started out with HTML and CSS. He like got to a full for front end developer job. It was all because of me. It was all because of me. But nah, you were.
I'm in your website footer, and that's like I feel accomplished. So
No, I mean, dude, honestly, the reason why I was so excited to talk to you and just share your story was because, like I said again, it's one of those stories where it's not necessarily the most glamorous story, right? You're like, I became a full stack developer in 3 months, made six figures, and now 3 months later, again, I'm making 200. It's not one of those kind of stories. It's one of those stories where you were desperate in some ways. You applied to 100 jobs, you got your first job, you weren't settling with that first job. You were learning your HTML and CSS, but you're so curious about JavaScript, so you learn more about JavaScript, and then you asked your boss like, "Hey, can I do more tickets?" And you're like, "Yes." And then you weren't satisfied with that. You learned React, and then once you learned React, we talked for a little bit, and then honestly it was all you. I just kind of gave you like steered you in the direction where I was like, just focus on this more. But you had the skills and the fundamentals to get 3 4 job offers, and that must feel so cool to be like, wow, 4 companies want me. I guess I am pretty good, right? So it's
I
just
yeah, I
awesome,
couldn't
man.
believe it. I still think I'm not good.
You're really
I guess.
humble too, but
Yeah. So I mean, for sure though, definitely like um, just yeah, like you said, like keep working, and then yeah, don't give up. I would
yeah,
say
man.
like
I mean, you definitely practice what you preach, and that's what I really respect about you and your stories because every minute or every little story you're talking about, it definitely revolves around this notion that's like, don't give up, keep working, and like just work smart if you can. But it's I don't think motivation was ever an issue with you, so it's maybe a little bit at times, I'm sure, but like you still grinded through it and whatever and whatnot. So
that's
super
what I
happy
needed
to.
when I talked
Yeah.
to you. uh,
I'm glad that I could be motivating as well.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
the
yeah, I
goal.
was, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think you definitely, for sure, like gave me a lot of um, like actual things that I need to do, so
Hmm.
I can go build that confidence. So that I think that's
Yeah,
what
I
helped a
I
lot.
appreciate that because a lot of times my one-on-ones, they're never the same with different individuals because everyone's going to have different skill sets. Everyone's going to have different stages in their development journey, and they all ask different questions. Sometimes they ask the same questions, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have to ask the same questions, but they're in different levels. So I can't give you like my advice to you about not building a project in React if it was someone that was like didn't even have their first job yet, right? because that'll be really bad advice in some regards. So I always try to make sure like I cater my advice around like the person and the individual, because every individual is a little bit different. And I just wanted to make sure that um a lot of like my advice, first of all, like I try not to have like a second meeting if possible, or third or fourth, or like I try not to have too many meetings with the same person, because in some regards that's like me not doing my job well enough. So I try to give you as much information as I can the first one, and if it's
So you're
good.
not trying to get people back so you can make that money every time they come back.
Yeah, and you know the thing is, the money is it's not that much. I've talked about this in my live stream too, and I say
Right,
like the money is just for like a paywall, so people don't ask me to
right,
just take an hour out of my schedule to talk to you for free, and I tell you my story and I give you some advice, and then what if you don't, you just end up not taking it, right? Like so many people are so eager to like take, but
right.
they never really have the when you say, oh, just it's $60 to talk to me now, and they're like, oh, like that's too much to talk to you. I guess like, okay, I guess it's not worth it. But I've noticed that the people that do pay and do talk to me, they're like the most motivated people. They're the most hungriest people I've met
Right,
in like
right.
my Discord community or whatever. Like they are all the I don't know if it's because of me and I like push off this excitement for them or them themselves, but I could already see that there's like a fire there. I When I talk to you, I saw the fire in you to like look for that next role. When I talk to my other like clients for the one-on-ones, like it's so nice to just be able to just say, all right, like what's next? Like what are we missing? How do we fix this? Like like move forward. Like I don't want to like quote unquote waste my time talking about like, oh yeah, like I'm a software developer, I grew up in California and I did like that is something that's already on my YouTube channel, so you could
Right.
just kind of do that if with me there. But here it's just very like action oriented, like tangible things to do, and it's
And
so cool to see like people succeed based on that. Yeah.
and I really like how you mentioned like you actually like the first thing you said was like tell me about how like you try to understand where this guy's coming from and actually
Hmm.
like find the actual problems and then you actually give the advice specifically
Right.
for that situation.
Hmm.
So I mean I think that's exactly like because everyone like you said have different like different level or different
Hmm.
yeah, different uh you know
Skill sets and
skill
whatnot.
sets
Yeah.
and everything. Yeah, so and for someone that like you who's been there and has the knowledge, then and then sharing your experience and then actually give out advice for that person in that situation is something that's
Yeah.
really helpful.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, thank you for that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I appreciate that. And as much as I like to toot my own horn about this, like it was all you, man. Like you did the work. And that's actually a lot of times what I say is like I could give you the advice, but if you don't actually act on it, then it's not my fault. It's your fault. But if you succeed, it's not because of me. It's because of you. And like, I won't take the credit for the blame or or the success, because ultimately it's up to the other person to decide. And like, you did it, man. So I'm really impressed. And I hope that, I feel like we've talked even after our one-on-ones and just like catching up and whatnot. So I'm so glad that we met. And I think this is the one of the coolest things I've ever done, where it's like I opened up my schedule and then I've actually become friends with the people that I've done one-on-ones with. So yeah, I can't wait to see what your next job is gonna look like. No, I'm kidding.
I need more motivational speech. So I will be back.
We'll put on some Gary V background music or something, and then we'll get that going. But
That'll be
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
but if any, for the rest of y'all that are still here and just listening to me and Kevin talk, I really appreciate you staying to the end. And if you have any questions for Kevin, hey, is there a good like a way to contact you, whether it's through Twitter, email, or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll say like I'd love to if you have any
Hmm.
questions. So email or even LinkedIn
LinkedIn.
probably
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So I
Yeah.
can
So
share that information.
Yeah, share that with me, and then I'll put that in the description of the video. And yeah, definitely appreciate you basically willing to help other people as well, because I think that's I'm a big fan of paving it forward. So it's really cool that you could open up your email and LinkedIn that way. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd love to. I know how hard it is. So
Yeah.
if I can give a little help, it'll be great.
Yeah.
I promise I won't charge. So
Yeah. Well, you're taking customers away from I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
yeah.
No, definitely leverage Kevin if you can. I'll expect 50 emails being sent to Kevin, and he's gonna feel
Oh,
overwhelmed.
but yeah, I
Well,
mean, like, yeah, definitely, I'm open for any question. If I can help, I'll be happy to. Yeah.
yeah, cool. And on that note, let's just end the episode. Tech Rally out. Bye.
All right. Thank you.